September 3, 2025. The 171-year-old Chinese Camp Post Office, a building that survived the Civil War, 2 World Wars, and the Great Depression, was reduced to smoldering ash in less than 4 hours. The historic 1854 post office, one of California's oldest surviving structures from the Gold Rush era, burned completely as over 300 people evacuated from this tiny Tuolumne County community, while flames consumed their town at a rate that defied every firefighting protocol. This was the systematic erasure of American history, written in flame and lightning, where a single electrical storm triggered 22 separate fires across the TCU September Lightning Complex and transformed a town founded by persecuted Chinese miners into a landscape of charred foundations and lost heritage. Welcome to Earth's Dark Secrets. I'm about to reveal how 9,619 lightning strikes in just 2 days created California's newest disaster zone, and why Chinese camps' destruction represents something far more devastating than property damage: the obliteration of irreplaceable Asian American gold rush history. Tuesday, September 3, 2025. Nature launched a coordinated electrical attack on California's Central Valley. In the first 2 days of September alone, California recorded 9,619 lightning strikes. The 6.5 fire ignited at exactly 2:15 p.m. when a single lightning bolt struck near Overlook Trail and Old Pedro Road, creating what fire investigators call a perfect ignition scenario. Bone-dry vegetation meeting superheated electrical energy during peak afternoon wind conditions. But this wasn't an isolated strike. The TCU September Lightning Complex encompassed 22 separate fires ignited simultaneously across Calaveras and Tuolumne counties, creating what emergency coordinators describe as multi-front fire warfare, where resources designed for single-incident response suddenly faced coordinated natural disasters spanning multiple jurisdictions. Within minutes of ignition, the 6.5 fire began exhibiting behavior patterns that violated standard wildfire prediction models. Instead of following typical slope-driven advancement, the blaze created its own weather system, generating updrafts that accelerated its spread and created localized wind patterns that pushed flames directly toward Chinese camp's historic core. For the first 10 hours, the 6-5 fire consumed terrain at an average rate of 8 football fields per minute. This was rapid consumption wildfire behavior, where flames advanced faster than evacuation procedures could be implemented, creating life-threatening scenarios where residents had minutes, not hours, to abandon everything they'd built over decades. By early Wednesday, the TCU September Lightning Complex had burned more than 19 square miles across multiple locations with zero containment. A geographic footprint larger than Manhattan Island engulfed in active wildfire conditions. Emergency dispatch logs reveal the cascading crisis. At 3:22 p.m., Chinese Camp Fire Department reported structure involvement along Main Street. By 4:15 p.m., they upgraded to multiple structure involvement. By 6:30 p.m., Chinese camp was no longer experiencing a wildfire incident, but rather community-scale destruction. Built in 1854, this structure served as the communications lifeline for thousands of Chinese miners who faced systematic persecution throughout California's gold fields. It was where families received news from relatives in Guangdong Province, where mining claims were registered, and where an entire immigrant community maintained connections to their homeland during one of America's most xenophobic periods. The town's historic post office burned completely while a second, newer post office building remained standing. A cruel irony where modern construction survived while irreplaceable historical infrastructure was reduced to ash and memory. Unlike homes or businesses which can be rebuilt, the 1854 post office contained architectural details, construction techniques, and materials that are literally irreproducible in 2025. More than 300 people were forced to evacuate, with nearly 350 additional residents placed on standby evacuation status, effectively meaning the Chinese camp's entire population of approximately 650 people faced immediate displacement from their homes within a 6-hour window. But evacuation orders revealed the community's unique vulnerabilities. Chinese camp sits at the intersection of Highway 120 and Highway 49, roads built in the 1940s that were never designed for emergency evacuation traffic. When flames approached from multiple directions simultaneously, residents discovered that their evacuation routes became bottlenecks, where families spent crucial escape time trapped in traffic rather than reaching safety. Outside one house on Tuesday evening, 7 people quickly moved large tree branches away from the structure and shoveled sand onto the fire in a desperate attempt to keep the blaze from spreading from the house next door. They worked for about 30 minutes until firefighters arrived. This scene repeated across the community as neighbors organized spontaneous firefighting efforts using garden hoses, shovels, and whatever fire suppression materials they could locate. Parts of nearby highways 120 and 49 were closed Wednesday due to the blaze, creating transportation isolation where Chinese camp became temporarily unreachable except by emergency aircraft. This highway closure pattern reveals how wildfire disasters create access denial zones, areas where emergency services, utility repair crews, and disaster relief organizations cannot operate effectively due to active fire conditions. Governor Gavin Newsom's office announced the state secured a fire management assistance grant from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. The grant authorization came within 24 hours of initial ignition, indicating that state fire coordinators recognized immediately that the TCU September Lightning Complex exceeded local and regional suppression capabilities. The town was added to California's historical landmarks list in 1949, recognizing its significance as one of the few remaining intact Gold Rush communities established specifically by Chinese immigrants. Thankfully, there have been no reports of injuries, but several structures were destroyed in 2 of the fires. Damage assessments have not been completed, indicating that while Chinese camp avoided casualties, the full scope of architectural and historical loss remains unquantified as of September 5th. The Chinese camp school was not destroyed by yesterday's activity, according to CAL FIRE updates, preserving one of the community's central gathering places and potentially providing a foundation for community recovery efforts. But evacuation orders and warnings remain in effect, meaning that Chinese camp residents cannot yet return to assess personal property damage or begin rebuilding processes. They remain in temporary shelter facilities, uncertain whether their homes, businesses, and community landmarks still exist. However, rebuilding Chinese camp faces unprecedented challenges. The destroyed historical structures cannot be authentically reproduced using modern construction techniques and materials. The 1854 post office, with its hand-hewn timber construction and period-specific architectural details, represents craftsmanship techniques that no longer exist in contemporary building trades. Today, the TCU September Lightning Complex fires have burned more than 13,000 acres with no containment. Chinese camp's destruction occurred within a much larger environmental crisis affecting multiple communities across Central California. The 6.5 fire is just one component of a coordinated natural disaster where lightning strikes triggered simultaneous emergencies across a geographic region larger than many East Coast states. Emergency management coordinators face the unprecedented challenge of managing multiple community evacuations, coordinating firefighting resources across vast distances, and maintaining communication systems during widespread infrastructure disruption. This multi-front fire scenario reveals California's increasing vulnerability to what climatologists term compound disaster events, situations where multiple natural hazards occur simultaneously, overwhelming response systems designed for single incident management. 171 years of Chinese American history reduced to ash in 4 hours. A gold rush town that survived everything California could deliver across nearly 2 centuries, except the lightning storm of September 3, 2025. As evacuation orders continue and damage assessments begin, Chinese camp's residents face a question that extends far beyond their small community. In an era of compound lightning disasters, how do you rebuild not just homes and businesses, but irreplaceable historical heritage that connected them to their ancestors' courage in the California goldfields? The answer, as the smoldering remains of the 1854 post office demonstrate, might be that some losses are permanent and some history, once burned, can never be recovered. Thanks for watching Earth's Dark Secrets, where we expose the hidden realities behind our planet's most devastating disasters. If this investigation revealed something the mainstream media won't tell you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us uncover the stories that authorities don't want told. Hit the bell so you never miss our in-depth analysis of the disasters that reveal our planet's dark truths.